Welcome to the Boardroom, a cold, dark place with unwanted guests. We are here for the hearing of grandfather's will. You might not want to be here. Beth, the outcast ostracized from her wealthy family, doesn't. In the reading of the will, her inheritance was small. If any, she didn't expect much. The old man, however, had played his game well. Hidden in the fine print lies a twist, and no one saw it coming.
Oh, wow. That's a big red door, Beth sighed. 2 flippin' doors, in one. Of course, she tried to take long, controlling breaths. It didn't help. She could feel an oncoming panic attack. It's just a door, she reminded herself. Breathe in, breathe out. Disturbing, she thought, and a little overwhelming. Yet, still just a door. What was behind the door, however, is what she dreaded. The right side, and then the left, clicked with a dozen clocks etched deep into the grain. Gears and cogs began spinning in furious circles.
You're late.
Beth heard an echo of whispers.
But not to worry. You're always on time here.
She was sure she didn't want any part of this. Grandpa Seth was the only reason she was here, wherever here was. Beth suspected that the will would be shredded and fought in court if her family had anything to do with it. So, here she stood, in front of that door, fearing the people beyond it. Her arms drooped, her eyebrows raised. She pouted a bit, perturbed that Gabe had left her there. I guess he's not an angel, after all, she whispered. No turning back now. She reached for Caleb's shoulder. The baby she nestled in the swaddling wrap. Her eyes widened as the doors slowly swung inward. It took 100 clicks and a horrid amount of squeaks. Caleb covered his mouth, then squeezed his eyes shut. Beth straightened out, expecting a final burst of loud shrieks, but not a peep. It was suddenly quiet. Orange blossoms fluttered through the open doors, circling Beth and her boys, then back into the somber boardroom of Mr. Weatherly's law firm. It was darker than she expected. Lighting was dim but served its ghastly purpose. Remain silent, speak only when spoken to. Stiff, well-dressed people with their little clones sat around a rectangular table. Cold stares stung her skin. She froze. Mr. Weatherly sifted through a stack of manila folders, his eyes on Beth. "Welcome," he said, and began his opening statement. "We are here for the reading of Mr. Seth Matthews's will." Beth waited for the doors to close behind her. It seemed the respectful thing to do. Not to interrupt Mr. Weatherly. He appreciated that, and motioned toward the empty chair. She was mesmerized by his voice and pondered his accent. It was music, like a flute. No, perhaps a violin. Every string in perfect harmony with the next. She took it in, every word and every note. Grandpa was right, she thought. The Seville can be overwhelming, with a hint of wickedness, but only to those with something to hide. Otherwise, finding the good, even the holy, wasn't that hard. "Tastes a little bit like honey," she could hear Grandpa say, when he liked someone's voice. "Sweet to the soul, and health to the bones." Beth was smiling. She didn't know she was. She was awkwardly aware that her family ignored her. Maybe she was used to it, but it still hurt. For a fleeting moment, she considered walking out, but she held her ground. It was beginning to feel chilly, and Mr. Weatherly's conference room didn't match the calm demeanor in other parts of the Grand Seville. Caleb whispered, "Why is the ceiling moving?" Beth looked up, one eye closed and her head slightly tilted. How does he always spot these things? The glass ceiling was indeed breathing. Each pane swirled and spewed rings of smoke. Winged snakes, horned fowls, and twisting sea dragons fought for position, eyes dripping with liquid fire. Mr. Weatherly and his angelic voice seemed oddly out of place. "Get a grip, Beth, or they'll put you away. Like your father." Nothing is real. Her thoughts, forever a battlefield. Caleb didn't like the place at all. Beth squeezed his hand. "We'll be okay, Caleb. Just don't let go." "Won't let go?" His little voice cracked. Grandpa's heirs squirmed in their seats. Nobody fit quite right on dark leather thrones. His 5 children, 13 grandchildren, and 10 great-grandchildren were itching to escape. Greedy snakes, she thought, glued to your seats, counting dollar bills. Grumpy faces of men and women who bore Grandpa's last name waited impatiently to hear what Old Man Seth had bequeathed them. "It's the bus ride from hell all over again," Beth said, a little louder than she meant to. It caught their attention, their creepy, stiff-necked, vein-popping attention. She was sure they were all dead, and she had taken a ride on the elevator to hell. It took a few ahums and a dozen throat-clearing gurgles for her to realize they were still among the living. Barely. "Great," she muttered. "We're all still here." Mr. Weatherly's face crunched into a frown as he continued to read each line meticulously to wide-eyed people tapping pencils and bright red fingernails on the glass-topped table, twitching their noses and forever clearing their throats. Desperately trying to avoid their grimaces and smug sighs, Beth apologized. "I'm sorry." She blew strands of unruly, dirty blonde hair away from her face. With stray blossoms falling off her shoulders, Beth drop-kicked her life's belongings beneath the table. "No need to apologize, Miss Beth." Mr. Weatherly gently slid a large glass of green tea toward her. Ice cubes popped and fizzed with dazzling colors. He offered a small plate of refreshments, a muffin tossed upon a bed of exotic fruit oozing with warm cream. She spotted the sugary white blossoms and cherry on top, and wondered if she could even manage a bite. "My favorites," she whispered, and gulped the tea. She let Caleb dig his fingers into a delicious mess, all the while aware of the uninvited guests slithering overhead in the cold glass ceiling. "Not real," she said, beneath her trembling breath. Mr. Weatherly nodded and handed Caleb a napkin and a cup of juice with a licorice straw. "Mighty fine Band-Aid, young man." Mr. Weatherly pointed at Caleb's elbow. "Thank you," Caleb said. "It's purple." His slender body perked up. "Indeed it is." Mr. Weatherly chuckled. "Mr. Larry closed the door on me," Caleb replied. "Mr. Larry, the bus driver?" Mr. Weatherly asked. "Yep, the bus diver." Caleb mumbled between bites, and the tale of his journey became the center of attention. Mr. Weatherly made sure the family heard every word. The child smiled. "I told them about Jesus, too, like Grandpa Seth taught me." That name, Jesus, sent shivers through the ceiling. Unwanted creatures protested. Only Beth heard, and Mr. Weatherly, of course. Beth took note as she leaned back with an uncomfortable smirk. "Caleb, why don't you let Mr. Weatherly speak for a bit?" "Thank you, Caleb," Mr. Weatherly responded. Mr. Weatherly continued the reading of the will, which Beth didn't expect much from. The hand-delivered invite was why she showed up. She needed to know if Grandpa's stories were true. But oh, how she missed him. He never judged, even after she had made bad choices and wound up with 2 babies before her 21st birthday, without a husband, frowned upon in her family, and reason enough to be ostracized. Today, on her 22nd birthday, she no longer cared. "Oh, Bethany," her grandfather would say, as she peeked around his bedroom door. His old scarred and weathered face would come alive, and though his voice trembled, It was music to Beth's ears. He could still hold a conversation, but sometimes during their walk in the garden, he would fall asleep in his wheelchair. She stayed nonetheless till his nurse offered to set up a room for her. "No, thank you. That's so sweet of you," she would reply. "Just tell him I love him." At the end of the day, Grandpa's fortune fell into the hands of his ungrateful children. 4 yachts, 2 for racing, 4 mansions, 3 vacation homes, a dozen vintage cars, and a collection of baseball cards in original packaging. Nothing for Beth? Her mother's feeble attempt to care fell on deaf ears. Mr. Weatherly gave Beth a reassuring wink, even though the pile of manila envelopes was gone. "Remember, please," Mr. Weatherly said in a stern voice. "These things come with a price." He handed each of them a letter. "These things are yours only after you complete the tasks Mr. Seth has laid out in the letters addressed to you." He shook his head and exhaled. "I will see you all in a couple of months." They shrugged, they huffed, and they shook their heads rapidly with pruned lips. They got what they wanted. "Remember," Mr. Weatherly warned, "your inheritance comes with a price." They didn't care, as long as the black sheep of the family, Beth and her illegitimate children, didn't receive a dime. Even her mother seemed to relish that. The room emptied quickly. The uninvited guests in the glass ceiling attached themselves to each escaping member of the family. Grandpa's letters crumpled in their pockets, a couple thrown in the trash. "We'll see you in court," they said, almost in unison. The glory of the midday sun crept into the boardroom. When the last vestige of a spoiled child walked out the doors, Mr. Weatherly's conference room burst into a sea of color, losing its blanket of smoke and musk. Sunlight burst into every inch. Beth and her boys were quietly sitting at the end of the table, eyes wide. "Ah," Beth whispered. "Peace. At last." "Indeed, Bethany," Mr. Weatherly said. "Come with me, young lady. There is an envelope for you." He stopped and turned to meet her face to face, and kissed her on the forehead, like Grandpa always did. "You didn't really think your grandfather would forget you, did you?"
Thanks for listening to Serendipity and Beth's ongoing saga. Will the family squander their inheritance, or dare to follow Grandfather's final words? And what fate awaits Beth, blessing or betrayal? Stay with us and discover the secret sealed within that last envelope. We'll see you next time, right?